Welcome. This is a December 5th Beehive production user call. We have Jan, Andrew, Hans, John, and myself, Michael. And while this is only related to Beehive, if you're doing things like Occam BSD acrobatics and making custom images and really small VMs, I've been running a build option survey run since 14.2 RC1 for BSD was released. And I found that there is indeed some fallout. I'm only, let's see, 200 builds into it out of 240, which has taken uptime. That's only taken 12 days. It's a very slow process. It runs through builds with options on and off. And while I do test those in an express manner by turning everything off, it's good to periodically run everything. For those who care, with ASAN is broken, but that's a with, which are often problematic or dependent on other ones. Without crypt is broken, that's a surprise. Without install lib is broken, which is a surprise, and without test support. Is there anyone present who cares at all?
With ASIN should no longer be required because address-based volume minimization should be on by default in 14. And you can disable it via loader tunable or SysCTR
Okay.
or tunable, I think.
Is it perhaps an obsolete
Could
build
be.
option? Could be. I'll make a note of that if I report these. Cool. But these three are regressions to whom it may matter. Anyway, so there is a cleanup oriented vm-bhyve release 1.6.0. And it sounds like Entrenig contributed to that, and I have asked if he can join and give us an update, but here is the release information. Um, fixes. And it sounds like there's Entrenig's typo. Looks like Chuck jumped in with some work. And I see you can now follow people. GitHub's becoming a social media platform. Lovely. No, thank you. I did actually, yeah. I also gave the vm-bhyve migration feature a try, and while uh, it might need a little more documentation, it did end up working if you follow it super carefully, and it lets you, I guess, cold migrate a VM, but it does a lot of helping activities on the ZFS level of, say, snapshotting in advance and having incremental baby step snapshots to the moment you want to migrate over to reduce the time it takes to complete the operation. And the fact that it is a cold move means your VM is probably a lot more portable between systems rather than some miracle live migration tool. Although, if anyone's using CBSD and friends, I'd love to see what they're using for migration. Apparently, there are countless efforts to advance bhyve live migration on FreeBSD, but none have materialized in something upstream. Are there any users here of CBSD and the VCP and other nifty tools? No worries. That said, Jan, thank you for your blog post, what, 6 months ago to a year ago on correct bridge networking with virtual machines. Uh, vm-bhyve is old school insofar as it goes with a classic add your bridge, add your tap, then use the host network interface in that bridge, but you've over time clearly pointed out that you want your host IP on the bridge itself, not the host network interface. And it might be wise through documentation or through a reworking of vm-bhyve's network setup and teardown to accommodate that. Naturally, if you tear down all your VMs, you would be leaving a user with a bridge, and that might not be desirable, but that's one to look at. And of course, since he started work, the native bhyve configuration file format has appeared. And one suggestion from, I think, Entrenig was to just have a bhyve config or whatever the canonical spelling is, just have the option of that file inside a VM directory, and then the startup bits look for that. If it finds it, it overrides whatever previous style you had and go from there. The parser internal to it is something that I haven't looked at, and it may be a complex project or a simple project. I do not know. But for those who have used, if any, on this call, I know we have two Lumos people and two FreeBSD folks. If anyone's used vm-bhyve, does that sound somewhat reasonable?
Like I said, I've always done my all of my management through the Zones interface or
Amen.
bhyve. So
Amen. Okay. It's a popular tool on FreeBSD, and after all these years, I'm finally giving it a go because I've always been under the hood poking at things. And for what it's worth, on social media, someone pointed out that NetBSD looks like they are uh, putting in an infrastructure for ARM64 support. So they're doing some more like if-defy things to say, hey, I'm on an ARM system, my Zen should behave a certain way. And for what it's worth, NetBSD Zen treated me very, very well many years ago. It was just rock solid back in the paravirtualized days. That said, Andrew and Hans, have you heard any news on Illumos ARM64 support? There was a repo that was like easy to find at one point, and then I don't know if I lost track of it or it went away, but the narrative keeps coming up.
I will be frank, from my perspective, while ARM64 is interesting, I'm not seriously paying any attention to it at all. It's not affecting what I'm doing, so
Um, Understood. And in preparing for Fosse earlier this year, I did some research, and the fact that you can have genuine hardware cores aplenty to a point that you give users genuine non-hyper what do you call that? Hyper-threaded cores, and you can even start giving cores to your network interfaces, your disks, and just come one, come all. And John might have some insights in aggressively tracking the candy you hand out to all your users, to use a non-technical term.
I have a couple of ARM64 systems that are set up to be uh, storage servers. Let me phrase it that way.
Okay.
I mean, I have nothing concrete to report. It's slow, kind of on my in my spare time.
Hmm.
But they're making progress. The systems are getting uh, more stable and able to do things appropriately. Um, just that 30-second report.
Sure. What stood out and motivated that use? Is it the power savings, the plentiful cores, the one fell off a
Um,
truck?
non-NUMA single processor, lots of cores. Um, haven't really played around too much. Would really like to see a Beehive running there in a very stable fashion. Most of my production storage servers are now actually a Beehive config running on a quote hypervisor with networking and HBAs and configured in pass-through mode to the
Mhm.
actual VM. That makes rebooting the storage server much faster,
Yep.
um, et cetera, et cetera. Easy to, I we use HBAs with shared storage, so kind of an AB mode if you're familiar with that. Um, so you get two heads set up like that. It makes testing and stuff like that very easy.
Cool. Uh, can you reveal whose ARM64 you went with, be it Ampere, be it
Um, yes, I have a couple
okay.
of Ampers and they're super micro based systems.
Nice. Cool, thank you. Well, that said, this agenda is otherwise blank. I do have a honeycomb system that I want to try ASAP with Beehive, but it's been sitting across the room laughing at me while I configure other systems. But I have made huge progress on preparing systems for people, so there's that. Um, let's see. Any other wish list items for tools like vm-bhyve that you just feel we're missing short of live migration? I know. Um, because I
More of a personal point.
please.
Over the years, I keep googling up for PID support, PID file support for Beehive, and I actually got frustrated with it the other day and started working on it. So I might have a patch in a month or two.
Okay, cool, very cool. Yeah, that's been one of those questions of, is this left to the user? Is this something to, institutionalize? Um, cool. Okay, and I forget, John, do you have any AMD based systems that might benefit from the IOMMU work that has recently landed?
Not in production,
Okay, I'd love
which
to
meant
hear
do have
feedback from users. Go ahead.
this,
Sorry.
but I'd have to get them set up and to test, and it's not in the cards right now.
Understood. Okay. Well, oh, I see chat. Yeah, Jan is in a train station, possibly on a train now. Let's see. It's often nice to disable option ROMs to reduce boot times. Yes, of course, or lifestyle controllers on Dell. I misspoke, but it's actually probably better. Faster software networking. Yep. Yes, and the key point that PCI devices pass through will never live migrate. Okay. Anything else, gang, or shall we call it quits and I get back to work and you get back to work? Okay, would anyone like the honors? Well, I cordially invite you to like and subscribe, and I wish you a great remainder of your week. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for hosting the meeting.
My pleasure.
Have a good time of day.
Asterisk. Bye.